1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616-1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you get on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything that we deem that is not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Also, you can follow the live video stream of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio and our YouTube channel Vaughan Radio. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, talk that get results. Tonight, the Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my colleagues around the table. Let me say good evening to all those who are listening and viewing this edition of Let's Talk tonight. I want to say tonight to all those who are celebrating, whether it's a birthday, an anniversary, or some accomplishment in their life, heartiest congratulations, happy anniversary, and I hope that they are having a wonderful evening tonight. Webbo, to those families who are in mourning tonight, I certainly want to take this opportunity to offer my deep condolences to all those who are in mourning tonight, whether it's the loss of a family member, a friend, a colleague, or an acquaintance. And I hope that they would be able to remember that individual with fond memories. Webbo, this is the sports season, and I just had to leave the very keenly contested Charleston Primary School sports event there at the Mondo Track, and I believe that over the next few days and weeks we will continue to see the unfolding of this very sporting event. Webbo, I want to thank you for the invitation, and I am indeed looking forward to tonight's discussion.
The Conrad Nile Library, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your hard-working staff here at the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean. It's once again, Webbo, we come together to discuss the issues affecting the people. As you know, and most people who know me know that I like to be part of the conversation, and I will also would like to be part of the solutions, and so we come here to discuss these issues regionally and locally, more importantly locally, issues that are affecting the people, issues that are fundamental to the growth of the island and the development of the people, and to, in a general way, just bring a better living standard and more happiness to the minds of the people here in Nevis, more in particular. Webbo, I also want to hail up my friends in the international circle. It's been a while now. My friends in Toronto and Mr. Liberde in Connecticut, always locked into the program. Good evening. And at this junction, I would like to just say I want to enjoy the conversation tonight, and I hope I can play an important role and make a good contribution to the program tonight. Thank you for having me once again, Webbo.
Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists. I also want to say good evening to your listening and viewing audience, near and far. I want to say special good evening to some families and friends in the US who are listening. I also want to wish the King Hollywood Andrew Nisbet. He and his lovely wife celebrated their 18th year of marriage last Sunday, and I want to say happy anniversary to you both, and I hope that you will have a long life and happiness together. Thank you once again, Webbo, for inviting me to the program.
Okay, let me get a quick break and come right back. The Honorable Spencer Brand, Roger Fifield, Conrad Naya Library. Your phone calls a little later on 1-869-469-1616 or 1700. We'll be back after these.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
Back on this episode of Talk That Get Results with the Honorable Spencer Brand, Roger Fifield, Conrad Naya Library, and good evening to Ted Hobson. I got you. So, what we got, gentlemen?
Well, good evening again, and what I want to speak about basically is sports, and more so cricket. I think some time ago I heard an interview where two of the West Indians officials were interviewed, one Enoch Lewis and Mr. Bascom, and they paid a visit to Nevis sometime earlier this month, and their task was to look at the E.T. Willett Park and see exactly the condition that it is in, and if it is in such a condition that it could host franchise cricket, regional tournament, and first class cricket. So I think that, you know, from the reports, well, the official report hasn't been in as yet, but from what I glee from the interview, I think that we should be very optimistic here in Nevis that we could see some sort of first class cricket again. And I want to believe with the reintroduction of first class cricket back in Nevis, I want to believe that the interest of cricket would spark and regenerate, and we could once again put Nevisions on the West Indies team.
Great. That's a very good opening topic. And actually, somebody told me that you were opening batsman. You play cricket.
I opened in primary school.
Oh, you play cricket in your adult life, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what the guy was telling me. Yes, very important. The game of cricket to Nevis, very important. I guess we got to take the positive side of things, and hope and wish that we get some regeneration, within, the minds of the people as it relates to game. I don't think the interests have gone really, to be quite honest. I think the interests remain, and there's always a lot of questions about what is going on with the game, because of course, these days we are fed a lot of cricket. We are fed a lot of West Indies cricket playing all over the world, and globally, just a lot of cricket you're seeing. I'm a guy who look at a lot of sports, and I don't think Nevisians have forgot that we are a cricketing nation, a cricketing island, and we once actually was seriously admired by regional players and authorities as it relates to our high standards, a small island producing so much people for the West Indies. Over recent times, I think we have somewhere along the line, I don't want to use the word drop the button, but something had happened or is happening that our players have not been able to make it there in the way they used to, and you can point your fingers to a lot of different reasons, but as I say, let's just stay on the positive side, because I think there needs to be some form of renaissance. A great thing would be a good preparation of the E.T. Willett Park for the game in particular. and not for other sports, I suppose. But I think Nigerians are longing for that, and we are longing to be lifted as we were once, by the talent of our own, fellow men. We had many people on the West Indies team, and we want to see that again. I believe, as it relates to the park, it should have been a much better place, today, knowing the long history of the park, and it's a leading park in terms of Leeward Islands cricket, again, because we have produced so many cricketers, and so anything to do with improving the park or bringing back the interest to the park as it relates to cricket here in Nevis is a big plus for Nevis and Nivisians, and I would like to see regional cricket come back around here. I would like to see the people feeling that way about it, that they can actually go out and support the cricket, and so in that respect, I suppose there's a lot of work to do, because it's not like people are unoccupied mentally. Everybody's minds these days seems to be full with all kind of things to replace, what once occupied your minds, really. And more people playing cricket, it's just not happening, and so it's a good thing. I'll steady it for now.
Well, the E.T. Willett Park is, in my mind, a facility, Webbo, that I personally felt perhaps ought to have had some work done to it probably long time ago. But put that aside. We are now going through a process, and I think it was just might have been yesterday actually, where no less a person than the Premier would have said to us that some information that he needed on a number of projects here on the island of Nevis. One of those projects that have been flagged, so to speak, is the E.T. Willett Park. And I think that the vision is that whatever we do with the E.T. Willett Park ought not necessarily to think about trying to attract perhaps test match, because that in my mind is a very different beast by itself. But I think that the opportunity presents itself where we can create something and improve on something that we should be able to. So far, if we speak about regional cricket, but I think that we need to probably go a bit beyond that. There is quite a bit in my mind of cricket that is being played, and I think that with the kind of rich culture, rich history that we have in cricket, that it is something that I think that we should and need to and will exploit. I am always amazed that whenever there is these matches over on Sinkits, the many persons who often go over. I remember, for example, the last season, there was, I hope you don't mind me calling his name, there was a gentleman by the name of John Bush. He was on the boat going over, and then we was on the boat late at night coming back, and we had some conversation on exchange. I think that the sporting public in Nevis, and especially the cricketing community, I think really hunger and thirst and desire to see that we can take that facility to a different level. Like I said, that is one of the projects that we have flagged, and I am hoping that sooner rather than later we can see something happening at E.T. Willett Park. I personally feel that it is long overdue. I think that it's a facility that do have a tremendous amount of potential still. I have seen throughout the region where during the World Cup in the Caribbean, I think it was 1997, I think it was, when some territories would have created new facilities and abandoning some of the facilities that they would have had with all of the history and so on. And we all know what happened to those new facilities. I think that we have, in my mind, a site that is unique. It's a site that I feel that do have a lot of potential, and I think that with the re-emergence, so to speak, of cricket, and I wouldn't really say re-emergence, because we've never really lost that thirst and that desire and that hunger for cricket here on the island of Nevis. We were able to put quite a number of players on the West Indies team using the facility that we have, but I feel that the time has, in my mind, perhaps overdue to really see some significant development there. I know that the West Indies Cricket Board in particular is trying to not only expand the game, but also to try and bring online a number of other facilities and territories. That is in their mandate, and I believe that once they are on board in terms of trying to give the necessary guidance, and perhaps not sure about the financial part of it, but the necessary guidance and consultation, I think that we can see something special happening there. But like I said, it's just, I think it was yesterday actually, and that was one of the projects that had been flagged.
I just want to chime in here, Honourable. Yes, I do believe that the West Indies Cricket Board normally inject some funds into the development of grounds around the region. So I don't see that there should be a problem in the injection of some funds to the E.T. Willett Park here and on Island. One of the things that amazed me though while I was listening to the interview is that the Nevis Cricket Association President, Mr. Powell, Carline, what he said is that he was hoping that the inspection would have done in March, and then they said in 14 days, and then they were able to come in 5 days, and as a result of that, hence my optimism, if they are going to come that quickly to do the inspection, it means that because so much cricket around and there's a thirst for grounds, I want to believe that we are going to see cricket again at the E.T. Willett Park. And probably not just cricket, but the commentary. I don't know if we have moved away from radio commentary, but I used to love to listen, the radio commentary had guys like Clacky, Frankie Claxton, his dad, Webbo, Stevenson Manners, those guys, I yearn to hear them on the radio commentating, bringing the commentary, bringing the cricket live and lively in its living colors. And I think if we were to go back to that, people would hear, people would listen, and it would also encourage, persons to want to take part more in the sport of cricket. You would have said, Honourable, that you don't think that there was a loss of interest, so to speak, in cricket. But I want to differ, because as a youth growing up, there used to be a lot more cricket played. We used to have the first division, the second division. We still have it, but it used to be different, because this first division used to be played over a period of 2 days, the Saturday and the Sunday, and persons would be decked in the white. Now you're having, I think, the first division playing 40 overs aside, and they are decked in colors. The second division, I think, is 30 or 35 overs per side, and they are decked in colors. We want to see the longer format of the game, because I still believe that Test cricket is the cricket, or the gold standard of cricket, in my opinion. So I want to see guys come out, and when guys play the longer format, you know, they take the time, they're able to defend, they're able to develop the stroke play, they're able to build the craft. And the same thing with bowling. You know, they develop more as a bowler. They get to spend more time in the field. They have to be more fit. You know, it's a whole compact, you know, aspect, holistic aspect of the entire game that comes to the fore when you are playing the longer version. And probably that's the reason why we are seeing now that in the Leeward Islands, the Leeward Island tournament, and to an extension the regional tournament, guys are not occupying the crease for any length of time. You know, they bat for maybe 20 overs, 25 overs, and they are tired. Maybe some pull muscle. You know, they pull up. They can't go on and bat for a good 50 overs. You know, the concentration level must be built. You know, and we could only get that if we start to bring back the longer format, the two-day cricket, back in Nevis, in my opinion.
But I hear you, and I would maintain my position that I don't really think that the vast interest in cricket has waned. I think what has changed has been the format. The format has changed. I agree that we are playing a lot more 40 overs, 20 overs, those kind of formats. So is it that therefore that because we are not necessarily playing the longer version of the game, the 2-day game, that you feel that that there has been a loss of interest? I don't necessarily agree. I think that what I've noticed is that the format has significantly changed. Cricket has now become it's a more exciting kind of format. It's a more kind of colorful kind of format. I agree that Test match is absolutely still the gold standard, and we have seen recently a few Test matches that ensure and bring to the fore that Test match is still the gold standard. So while I see that perhaps there could be more to the games, I still maintain that perhaps the interest, because you have a lot more persons now coming to the fore in these shorter version, and are getting opportunities here and there and so on and so forth. So if it is that we are going to just say that the longer version is what we should be doing, well, that's a different argument. But I still think that we are playing quite a bit of cricket, but the format, in my mind, have significantly changed.
I think we should continue to
even in this recent tour of West Indies to Australia, West Indies against Australia played 2 Test matches, which for me does not necessarily make much sense, because 2 Test matches, there is a high probability of a drawn Test series. You often, long time ago, they used to play 5 Test match series and so on, and over the years they would have cut it down to perhaps a minimum of 3. But to see that you are now asking a team to travel from the Caribbean all the way down to Australia to play 2 Test match series, it shows that the focus, right, have been shifted to not so much Test match, but more T20 and 50 overs. That is where a lot more persons are shifting their focus. Whether it is right or wrong, well, that's a different argument. I totally agree with you. Test match is still the gold standard, and that is where you really develop your craft, test your mettle, test your level of concentration. But the shorter version and the shorter format brings to it a totally different attraction and appeal.
I totally agree with you, Mr. Honorable. But I think the long version of the game, everything is different there. Even the crowd. And sometimes it looks like the venue, because the long version of the game, I've been looking at a few games, and people just relax with long chairs and under trees and so forth, because they're going to be there for a long time, you know. But the shorter version is you find more young, bubbly kind of people, and I believe the shorter version make more money, eh?
Yes.
Because money must be, and it's not always that it should be, but of course it is the bottom line of most of these great events, you know. And the fact that they only had two tests, why not three? They must be saying this test now make no money, you know, comparing to, obviously, but, you know, there must be a team that dominates that version of the game. So it continues, but to me, of course, the interests have shifted very much to the shorter version of the game.
Yep.
You know?
Gentlemen, I don't want to interrupt your spicy the debate, but I just wanted to by way of information to Roger, because I think he genuinely asked the question when he was referring to the commentary and the other things that you all were debating leading up to that, including the ETW pack, etc., and so on. So I wanted to make a comment that will fit a general comment, and then you can glean and see how it fits in. A lot of the times in this society, we tend to mash up things just because we're not in charge. And then when it mash up and we don't have the ability to put it back together, the same people start the conversation about where this and what happened, how come we don't have this. So I'm not surprised that I'm hearing that question. But what happened to this? And sometimes I can be very strategic. So I learn from an old wise man, and coupled with what I read in the scriptures, which is my source of inspiration and instruction. Sometimes you let them go ahead, because a lot of times, you know, as I said, it's because of jealousy, and they don't have the ability. So all that would happen, what little item you have, they criticize, make noise, mash it up, can't do nothing about it because it wasn't them, and then everybody suffers. So that's the point I wanted to make.
Point well made.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that, Mr. Herbert, but what I want to say, though, in terms of the game that Naya was alluding to, is that it's the generation now is gravitating towards the shorter game. It is shorter, they spend less time in the sun. You know, I guess the sun, you know, is getting hotter with, you know, the ozone depletion and stuff like that. But there are one or two youngsters that, you know, are still around, still looking good. The team that I play for, yes, now I do play. I think I played active cricket up to last year. I haven't played for the year. And that's Easterns, of course, from the Gingerland area, Zion area. And we had a match yesterday. Yesterday was what? Sunday, which was basically a virtual semi-final, so to speak. The winner of that match would have advanced between ourselves, Easterns, and Jets. And I wasn't there from the start, but from what I gather based on the scorebook and what I saw in the second innings of the Easterns, I want to say the future looks good. There's one Yolano Smitten and one Carlin Smitten. I believe that Carlin Smitten is the son of I think his father has the same name. We call him Oko. He opened the batting for Nevis some time ago. Hard-hitting left-handed batsman from the Rollins area. There's also a Jalani Manners. He batted really well. And in the bowling aspect, there was one Rejon Fifield, who I think took 3 wickets, bowled 4 overs, and took 3 wickets for something like 14 runs. So I believe that, there's hope. I'm not saying the hope was lost, but, there's something, a bright, shining armor once we could harness this talent. Because sometimes the raw talent is there, and even in the international circles, after West Indies won the second test and Shamar Joseph came to the fore, there was all sorts of interviews all around. Australians were interviewing, and this keep coming over and over. The West Indies is not short on talent, but I suppose is that we are not harnessing the talent as we ought to. We are not cultivating it so it can grow, so it can mature and blossom into good cricketers, great cricketers, excellent cricketers of yesteryear. The Garfield Sovers, the Rohan Kanais, Malcolm Marshall, Curtly Ambrose, Vivian Richards, you name them, Brian Lara, you name them. We have the talent is there. But as I said, maybe the nurturing of the talent is lacking.
Roger, I hear you, and I want us to put a few things in perspective. The first thing that you mentioned, you called some names, and I think that in the late 70s, early 80s, into the early 90s, West Indies, of course, dominated world cricket. We have seen quite a number of cricketing playing nations done a few things that, and Webbo alluded to it. Webbo kind of perhaps indirectly pushed us into that direction. A number of cricketing nations were able to do a few things that kind of, in my mind, frustrated and handicapped West Indies cricket. That's one. Two, we have also seen that the focus, again, go back to the focus of what is taking place as it regards to cricket globally have shifted. Whether or not, and the issue was raised especially in this recent tour to Australia, and I heard some of the commentators were talking about the kind of monies that the Australian cricket players were earning versus what some of the West Indian cricketers were earning. And they were trying to analyze and understand some of the same things that you were talking about. It's not that the Caribbean is short or the West Indies is short on talent, but what a lot of these players are earning when it comes to, one, their contract and test cricket is nothing compared to what an Indian player is earning or an Australian player is earning.
True.
It therefore means that, well, let me back up a bit. The question must be asked, therefore, does the West Indies Cricket Board has the capacity to ensure that these talented players that we know do exist around are given the kind of contract payday arrangement that we would like them to have to stick with the test cricket? This particular tour of Australia, and I go back to that again, a number of players said plainly that they were unavailable. So when we hear the comment that and some very unsavory comments were made against this particular team that went to Australia, very unsavory. But if we were to just put those comments aside, we must ask the hard question. As a West Indian people, is it that our players are being remunerated based on what other countries are earning? And two, does the West Indies Cricket Board has the capacity to do that? A lot of these talented players have gone off to play these franchise tournaments and these franchise matches and so on, because I feel that a lot of them feel that that is the only way in which they can really earn a living. And who are we to probably say they should not? Yes, we would like them to play for West Indies, and yes, we would like to once again become dominant in world cricket. But I think that the focus have really shifted, and in that period in the 70s, 80s, 90s, we did not really have all of these various quote-unquote franchise and distraction when it come. There was a lot of test cricket that were being played. And as you said earlier, a lot of these players were able to develop that craft, develop that talent, fast bowling, great batsmen who if my memory serves me right, with all the fast bowlers that Vivian Richards ever faced, I don't even think that he ever wear a helmet yet.
Never.
So the talent has always been there, but the focus has now shifted, and a lot of these players are now looking at what it is that they are earning, and it is a challenge. I know that the West Indies Cricket Board do have their work cut out for them to retain these what I call test players and first class players, because there is that pull and that draw to play these franchise type cricket. These guys, just like everybody else, need to earn a living. It's a difficult proposition for the management of West Indies cricket. I know that they have their work cut out for them. Based on what we just saw with Shamar Joseph, overnight he was able to his contract arrangement and so on was able to
skyrocket.
But the question must therefore be asked: how long will he be able to resist the pull from some of these franchises? Because I know for a fact that they are going to come after him with some serious dollars.
I wanted to ask you, Mr. Fifield, do you think the path now is more difficult? Path to get to that point of earning money in cricket. I'm talking about local cricket now. I'm talking about local cricket. And I'm asking whether or not the path now it's less difficult or more difficult than, say, in the 80s to get to the point of earning money from cricket, whether you're playing tests or franchise cricket. Because, I mean, yes, we are talking about West Indies cricket, but my real interest lies with the local stuff and bringing back that standard that we can have people on the West Indies team, you know. and of course I'm thinking about exposure and all these type of, I mean, you call a few names. How do those guys move from that point to a point of exposure? And back to the question, do you think it was easier back then, you know, to be exposed, to, you know, have your talent be exposed regionally? I'm not sure what's going on in local and Leeward Islands cricket. Back in the past, it was very clear. You're a good cricketer from a club in Nevis. You may make Nevis team, then you may make the Leeward Islands team, maybe the Combined Islands, and then you're gone to the West Indies. Did you think it's more difficult now?
Well, a simple answer is no, it's not more difficult now. I want to believe that it is a lot easier now, and I'll give you reasons for my answer. Back then, you would have played club cricket in Nevis. You make the island team. You make the Leeward Islands team. You probably made the President 11 team, the Board 11, whatever name you want to call it, the B team, the A team. You get onto the West Indies senior team. But especially cricketers from the smaller islands, it is said that you had to be twice as good, or the perception is that you had to be twice as good as other players from the bigger islands. Now, you'd have been maybe taking wickets for a season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, maybe 4 seasons before you can get a look in. Because the quality of cricket back then, the standard to me was higher. Hence, breaking into the West Indies team would have been more challenging. For instance, well, before I go to that, let us look at Harris, the wicketkeeper from St. Kitts. For a number of years, Harris was making runs, and he was one of the better keepers in the region. And he was making runs year after year, and never gotten a chance. Never gotten a chance to play cricket for the West Indies team. And I dare say, with his talent, if you fast track it to this era, he would have been playing for the West Indies. Now, let us look at Shamar Joseph. Started playing regional cricket, I believe, a year or 2 ago. He bowled pacey, he bowled well, but he basically played for Guyana for 1 season before breaking into the West Indies team. And now he got the chance to recognize the quality that he is. But what I'm saying, in yesteryear, he would have had to do that for 2, 3, 4 consecutive years before he got a chance to play for West Indies. That's the reason why I'm saying that I think that it is now easier to make it into the West Indies team. And the setup for the West Indies team now is different. Years ago, you would have found that basically the same test squad is the same one-day squad, with maybe just 1 or 2 persons, making a difference. Now we have 3 formats now. We have the T20, we have the one-day international as the 50 over side, and we have test match cricket, 5-day cricket. Now, almost for the 3 formats, almost all the players are different. You just have maybe 1 or 2 maybe playing all 3 formats, or maybe 2 formats. But basically, you have 11 threes, 33. And normally it is a 15-man squad or 14-man squad. So you basically have, you could say, a pool of, let's say, 40 different players that can make West Indies side in any one year, whether they're playing T20, one-day international, or test cricket. So to me, it is easy. And as I say, the quality of the cricketers, I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but this is how I feel. The quality of the cricketers and the commitment, in my opinion, is not there. You know, the pride, the joy of playing for West Indies. I mean, it's just like when I was growing up, going to school, you make the school team, whether it's for athletics, for cricket or football, and you feel like a king. You feel like a king. You may make the squad, but you may not make the 11. But you feel like a king. You feel the joy, you know, of you representing your school. And I believe that the joy and the pride. I was watching a short clip some time ago, and it might have been the West Indies playing under Clive Lloyd in England, when the English men, they made some comments that the West Indians didn't take too nicely, you know, and then they said, look, we're going to do. And what happened? They peppered them with some bouncers. They hit them all parts of their bodies. And then, as the Honourable would have alluded, in terms of taking away from the West Indies cricket, probably to diminish us, so to speak, they took away the bouncer. They are now saying that it's only one bouncer per over, per batsman. That was our weapon. You know, Andy Roberts, probably one of the best fast bowlers, and in terms of accuracy of bouncers. You know, and we all could do that one time in 6 balls. And in that interview that I watched some time ago, they were saying that if this continue, we're going to basically have dead people. We're going to have people hospitalized. So that is the justification for them to take away the bouncer from us. You know, so, you know, there are so many different ways. I mean, it is said that one of the ways is to draw us to the IPL. And I know one legendary cricket commentator, a legendary West Indian cricketer in Michael Holden. He would have said that he is not going to commentate any T20 cricket because he feels as if that it is not cricket. I mean, his opinion, you know, because what I'm saying, as I probably would have said earlier, is that the development, the harness of the cricketers over a short period of time, it's everything rash, everything quick. You come in quick, you bat quick, you out quick. You know. So it's just like a quick, everything quick. You know, there's no patience, and as a youngster playing the game, you know, your temperament, your discipline, and maybe if you play more cricket and we play longer format, it may rub off in society, in our young men, to be more disciplined, be more patient with our fellow brother men. When something arises, you know, we can step back because we are disciplined. We can look, we can dig in, we can play off the spin, play off the pace, you know, just step back and say, okay, fine, I understand, and how can we do it differently? Because, you know, sometimes, you know, we have to try to do things differently in order to, you know, have an amicable, you know, resolution, in my opinion. I was just tying in basically cricket and discipline with youngsters.
Well, let me ask you a question. Throughout the region, and I think right here in the Leeward Islands, the various boards would have created these academies where emerging players are huddled together as a playing unit. I believe some is based in St. Kitts throughout the year, and then I think they moved to Antigua, different time of the year. with all the amount of cricket that is being played, is it therefore that format and that structure is not reaping the dividend that we are hoping and expecting to see? Where our players from, we're talking about the Leeward Islands, so to speak, are not necessarily emerging as we know that they once used to. I go back to what I said earlier, that I feel that because of the change in the various formats, and you highlighted it, that the West Indies now have, and just like many other cricketing playing nations, 3 different teams: the Test, the 50 over, and the T20 teams. That has now been how a lot of the cricket is now being structured in terms of the selection and the selection policy. But my question to you is that we have players around Antigua, St. Kitts, Nevis, St. Martin, Anguilla, Montserrat. These emerging players are virtually on contract with the Leeward Island board. We are sticking in the Leeward Island. Mm-hmm. And they are placed in these academies and so on and so forth. Is it that we are getting the kind of output from the economy, or are they maturing enough and developing enough as you, because all they do all day is play cricket in these various academies. Is it that we are not seeing the benefit or reaping the dividend from these academies? And it's not only here in the Leeward Island. We know it's throughout the region, really, where they cuddle these players in an academy, and they teach them the history of the game, they teach them techniques, they watch videos, they do all kind of things, and trying to get them to that level. Is it that system is failing and they just need to play more what we will call real life hard cricket?
Yes, Honorable, what I would say is that to anything there is a cost. And I'll tell you why I said that. You spoke to the Leeward Islands. And when you speak about the Leeward Islands, you are speaking to different islands, a number of different islands that make up the Leeward Islands. And there are players from various islands that would converge on one particular island. Let's say Antigua, for example. What you would recognize is that there would be a cost to transport players from Nevis, St. Kitts, St. Martin, Anguilla, Montserrat, and the BVI and USVI IDSA to Antigua. So that cost is now going to be added to the cost of actually hosting the academy or the camp. Whereas, for example, in Barbados, maybe Jamaica, Guyana, all of their players are on one, well, maybe not so much for Guyana, but all of their players are on one landmass. Hence, the transportation cost to get them to that particular central point of venue would be much less than those persons who have to converge on that particular island in the Leeward Islands. So there's a cost factor. So whereas you could have had an extended period to have the camp or the academy, I'm not sure how long it is going on for now, but let's say for argument's sake it is 6 months. That transportation cost, if we were to take it away, I am sure that the camp could have run for another 6 months, let's say a year, because when we understand interregional travel and the costs to get from point A to point B in terms of different islands. So that, I would say, for that part. Now the other part in terms of if it is not reaping the dividends or benefit, I would say yes. And the reason I would say yes is that it might have been 2 years ago, possibly, we were able to get, at least from Nevis, 3 under-19 cricketers representing the West Indies from the island of Nevis. One of the representative in Mr. Colin Tuckett Bowen, he's now playing for the West Indies Academy. He's keeping. Now, when we move across, we just took part in the Under-19 World Cup. We have a youngster from Antigua. I believe his first name is Joel. I can't recall the last name, but he is a wicket-keeper batsman. He made a few runs there. He made 130. He made another half century or two. They are back home now. Now, we have in the Leeward Island setup, we have a wicketkeeper batsman in Jamal Hamilton, who was the captain last season and a few seasons before. So when we look at it now, we would have basically have 3 keepers who are vying for 1 spot. But now you recognize that Mr. Tuckett now is playing for the West Indies Academy and not the Leeward Islands. So there's an opportunity. I think the last match he played, he made, the last match or the one prior to that, he made 46 not out. 46 not out. He carried his bat. And now in the Leeward Island setup, we have Jamal Hamilton who is wicket keeping. But Joel has made the team as a batsman.
Well, I find you quite knowledgeable about the game, Mr. Fifield. What do you think? Sorry, I always find myself asking you a lot of questions. I must be, something new, a wealth of information. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think government role should be as it relates to what we're talking about? Youths in Nevis developing in that role of cricket.
Well, I think the government must be facilitators. The government must be or should be in a position to have the fields. I do not want to say to have the groundsmen, but at least to provide the playing field. And because we must understand that cricket is a expensive game, unlike some other sports. In cricket, you have to buy pads. You have to buy pads of all sorts. You have to buy cricket bats. You have to buy helmets, protective gears, balls, etc. So I believe the major role for government in cricket, in my opinion, is to be facilitators. As I said, to provide grounds, but not just that, but to provide some aspect of coaching, even from the grassroots. And I think that the government, they are doing just that. in terms of they have coaches in the various schools.
All of the schools.
All the schools, thank you. And so you would understand, because the government can only do as much. So they have to play the part, they have to facilitate in giving the basic coaching to the various schools, coaches to the various schools, so they can impart the knowledge to the youngsters, and they must provide the grounds, the facilities. Because if the facilities, if they are not there, then they would be only be able to play cricket at a certain level. Because in a pitch must be there, you must have grounds that are not embedded with stones.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you also, because in the past what we used to have is a kind of more communal spirit. That was good for almost everything and anything here on Island, which I think we tend to move away from that. We had a team from Brownhill, we had one from Government Road, Bar Village, Jessup, Cotton Ground. All of these was cricketing villages in a big way, you know, Gingerland, you know, and same with all sports, and even doing cultural things too, like string bands, you know. Where does that, what happened to that communal and village spirit that, to me, that was the heartbeat, honestly, of Nevis, you know, in various aspects, you know. Football, you go to Grove Park to watch Bart playing Grove Park Rangers, Government Road. And even in netball, to me, that was the heartbeat of this little island. In every respect. Where has that gone?
A lot of things has changed, Naya. And I dare say that sports has a lot of competition, the various sporting aspects. There are disciplines. Persons are now staying in their homes, whether watching television, playing games, and such like. Back then, we didn't have the video games, we didn't have television. Maybe all of us bunch up and went to our neighbor and we watch wrestling, Stampede, you know. And so back then, you had to be out and about, so to speak. You had to occupy yourself. Back then, we didn't have students doing 10 and 15 subjects. For what reason, I can't say.
Okay.
You know, so children were allowed, in my opinion, to be children. And back then, how you be children? You're out, you have to play cricket, you have to play sports, you have to play volleyball, you have to play football. How we do it? We wanted to do it in a competitive way. Where I'm from, in the Zion area, Webb's Ground, I can recall back in the 80s, we used to have up the path.
Playing against down the path.
Yeah, not down the road, and up the road, you know. Up the path against down the path. Yeah. Right? And so you would find that each area, you know, want to be the best they can be. You know, and because they want to be the best that they can be, they will do whatever it takes, you know, to be that. Not in a negative way, but in a competitive way. They would compete. They would compete. One of the other things too, sad to say, that over the years, maybe as far back as the mid 2000s, coming up to 2010 and onwards, we would have had a lot of lives being taken by the gun. And because of that, persons are now segregating and, you know, this is my turf. So persons may not want to go to a particular village or a particular area to play sports anymore. sadly. I remember vividly as a youngster, we used to go Castle to play cricket and football. Castle used to come Zion to play cricket and football. I once played football, and I would have played for almost every team on island. I traveled with Newcastle to Anguilla in 1992. I played for Cotton Ground. I played for Uprising. I played for Black Circles. I played for Police. I played for Easterns. I played for Hanley's-Wood. I played for Hard Timers. I played for Midway United. I played for so much. You know, but I am saying, the reason why I'm saying this, because you may find now a talented youngster. Maybe he's not involved in anything, but because of where he's from, he's fearful of traveling to another area to play cricket. So these are all part and parcel that, you know, would take away from the community and the spirit of the communityness. But I believe deep down that it is still there. I can recall Newcastle bringing the crowd in Charlestown on a Sunday.
Yes, man.
You know, big crowd. I mean, it had to be a big crowd then. You know, I can recall.
Of course, man. Newcastle and everywhere.
Yes.
Art Village. To me, if you can unlock that mystery, you'll do a lot. You know, I'm not sure if we got to go to the schools or what, but village competitiveness should be something we should really try to maintain, because it impacts on various aspects of our, and in turn you optimize. And even for the Culturama Queens, you know, even for the Culturama Queens, it's out of that type of thing you pick.
Yes.
You know,
and you know, Naya,
it's so important.
As I speak to the Culturama Queen, I think it was just weekend, I was speaking to my children, and I was telling them, I recall back in the 80s, when you had a Queen show, the Culturama Committee used to look for a female from each parish. So you would find that persons coming out to root for their parish. I can recall, I think, in 85, we had Fiona from Gingerland, Rollins. In 86, I think it was Marcia Maynard from Hanley's Road, Gingerland. 87, I think it might have been somebody from Charleston, Connie maybe? Connie Richards, perhaps? I'm not sure about 88. You know, but what I am saying is that, you know, you would have had these communities coming out and everybody coming to support their girl, so to speak, you know, on that night. You know, I don't think it's totally gone, because we have the interprimary.
Is an example.
Is an example. So I don't think it's totally gone, and that is coming up shortly in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And you would see, you know, persons coming out back in the various community, the various schools. So it's not totally gone. All is not lost. And we must keep hope alive. We can't ever allow whatever light we have to go out. We must keep it alive.
Well, I just want to chime in on a few things that Roger alluded to. And I want to go back a bit very quickly to the matter of the cricket. And you spoke about the transportation costs. I believe that has always been a challenge, in particular for the Leeward Islands setup. The Leeward Islands make up of Antigua and Barbuda St. Kitts and Nevis, Anguilla, Montserrat, the British, U.S. Virgin Islands, all of those. So it has always created a challenge for the Leeward Islands setup. But I don't believe that that challenge would have prevented us from, in my mind, producing some of the best cricketers in the world. It has been a challenge, but it has not been, in my mind, the determining factor to hinder the Leeward Islands. From these islands, we have basically produced, well, we started by producing right here in Nevis, the first West Indian from the Leeward Islands. So that is the kind of rich history that the Leeward Islands have. Number one batsman in the world, number one bowler in the world, all of those came from the Leeward Islands. So the challenge of the transportation, it has always been there. And I go back to what I said earlier, that for me, what we are seeing is that the entire format of cricket have changed. Some people may argue that the test match format is losing its luster, so to speak. But like I said, in recent time we have seen that, hey, test match is still the gold standard. What I find to be, in my mind, one of the region's challenge is the commitment of the players probably to West Indies cricket and to the West Indian people and nation. That, I think, I feel is not as engraved in my mind, and this is just my perhaps observation and based on what I'm thinking, that many of the players who are around now are not afraid to say to the West Indies board, I'm not available. And you are representing the West Indian people, the Caribbean people. And I believe that all of these players are old enough to know and understand the pride and place that West Indies cricket plays in the people, in the hearts and mind of the people of the Caribbean. Is it that they are not as committed and not as focused? I think that that could be a challenge. You spoke about the various games that we normally saw amongst the various communities. One of the things that I want to put on the table is that in all of the schools we have, I think, and I stand to be corrected, at least 2 coaches in all of the schools.
Yes.
There may be 1 or 2 that, based on their size, may just have 1. But I think that the grassroots structure coming out of the schools is in my mind, is still there. We have seen the various school football, primary school football competition, and we all know the ding-dong tension and backlash that we have seen recently. So that is still much alive.
True.
I feel that where the gap is, especially when it comes to football and like Naya, I'm very familiar with what would have taken place in Grove Park. Well, now the E.T. Willett Park. Referees like Lulu and those guys who control those games. God rest his soul. We have seen, in my mind, some of the fiercest football competition that has taken place right here in Nevis. Robert from Bath Village.
Manchester, man.
I believe that Robert could have probably played on an international football team as a defender.
Central defender.
He was that good in my mind. And we have seen some very talented players. The opportunity that I think, perhaps some of those opportunities did not come to fruition for many of these players. But I want to say now, in the present St. Kitts and Nevis setup, with the involvement of FIFA and the West Indies Cricket Board, there's a lot of opportunity for players who are serious. There is also a lot of scholarships that are available in track and field, in football and in cricket. And I think that because the focus, and I go back to the focus, is changing from the test setup and this more, I think that it is proving a challenge for many of the players to develop the kind of way in which we would like to see them develop. I know we still have some very talented coaches around the place. One of them, Stuart Williams, is still doing some tremendous work throughout the region. But are we, yes, and Keith Atherton, but are our players as committed as they should be? You spoke about the fields or the wicket or the pitch may have in stones. I'm not so sure if you still have fields or wicket with stones in it.
The grounds basically.
The various grounds and fields are, in my mind, in a condition that I think can provide them with the necessity to practice and learn and develop their craft. Of course, we would like to see a lot of these grounds develop further. But I would not want to say to our people that they should not seek to develop their skill and their talent because some of the grounds are not necessarily as developed as we would like. We have, in my mind, the conduit for a lot of these players to advance themselves. We have the grassroots structure in the schools, and I think that if they were to, and certainly the West Indies and Leeward Island boards do have some structure in place in some of these academies and so on and so forth where they can come through. And there are the opportunities. I feel that once they are serious and apply themselves and they take the guidance, then I feel that a lot of them can reach very, very far. And it's not only in cricket. We know that a lot of work is also going on in football. We have seen recently that the re-emergence of netball. And I think that once the application of these individuals continue, I think that there are great opportunities for them.
We are on sports, and sometimes I think we have a circumstance that exists between both islands. I know with cricket, Nevis had always have a cricket team, and St. Kitts, but they sometimes now decide to fuse both teams and say it's a national team.
Football.
Yeah.
Because the FIFA
is the structure of FIFA.
Yes. The structure of FIFA. Okay. Do we find ourselves?
But I don't think that that's such a bad thing, you know, and I'll tell you why. I don't really think
I'm
that.
not saying it's a bad thing, but I just wanted to ask, are we at a disadvantage over here as it relates to that kind of thing, having a federal team as opposed to a team in Nevis or a team in...
I think what it does, and I'm looking at it from an outsider in the football setup. I think what it does, it offers our players an opportunity for greater competition in both St. Kitts and Nevis. Back in the 80s and 90s, I'm not even sure if we ever had a football team that ever went to St. Kitts to play a football match.
Yes, we did.
If it did,
We
right?
back, I think, in '93 under coach David Rick.
But I'm talking about in the 80s when we know we had some really good talent around. But the point I'm making is this, that those days, that interaction were few and frequent. Right? Infrequent, sorry. Now, you now have a structure that incorporates both St. Kitts and Nevis, where oftentimes we have teams from St. Kitts actually compete in the St. Kitts setup
league.
and so on. League.
Yeah, it's one league.
So I think that it offers our players that opportunity, but it also offers them the opportunity to be spotted by
Scouts.
international scouts. You are a part of the FIFA St. Kitts and Nevis structure, and the FIFA St. Kitts and Nevis structure is being looked at by international scouts. So that is an avenue, and that is where I think, and I know there have been one or two players who would have been spotted and given some opportunity. So that's why I say it's not necessarily such a bad thing. I think it opens you up to more competition, more games, or more opportunity than if we were in our own little corner here and there. The West Indies, the cricket is a little different because you have each individual island, and you really have to crawl your way up the ladder to her. But I think that we still have, and we are seeing some young talent that is emerging. And like I said, if they really apply themselves and if they really take this thing to heart, we know that a future still exists for them. Mr. Fifield spoke about Carlon, who is one of those. I know that there is young Daniel.
Under 15.
Yeah, so there are some talent that is there that they just need to develop, and like I said, I think that the application and the attitude towards taking in and getting that understanding about the game would hold good for them.
If I may chime in here, Honourable, in support of what you just said in terms of football and the two islands playing in the same league and players from Nevis, it is no secret that when we speak to football in St. Kitts and Nevis, that generally St. Kitts is the better of the two in football. And so players from the island of Nevis playing in the league in St. Kitts have been a part of the league in St. Kitts. It gives rise for them to lift the game.
Absolutely.
And when they lift the game, they now become more competitive. We have back, I think, might have been in the 90s. Might have been, I'm subject to correction, it might have been Sligo, who would have been the first division to play for the national team. And thereafter we had Sheldon Dapper Newton. I think we have a young Myers.
Yes.
You know, and maybe one or two others that names are not coming readily to me. So what I'm saying is that, you know, with that level of competition, you don't want to be left behind, so you're going to try your utmost. And then sometimes with competition, it brings out the best in you.
Absolutely.
And we recognize where you're at. Now, if I may jump to cricket now, yeah. I'm sorry. In terms of the two islands playing as one, it happened back in 1988, if memory serves me right. I think it was a touring English team playing in St. Kitts, and they had a St. Kitts Nevis team. I had guys like Stuart Williams, Carly Tuckett. I think there was a toss-up with the keeper, but I think that Ray Phillip kept wicket, if memory serves me right. But what I can say if memory serves me right, for the playing 11, we had 7 players from Nevis on that St. Kitts Nevis team. And I'm saying this to say that when it comes to cricket in St. Kitts and Nevis, generally Nevis is the gold standard, whereas it is the opposite for football. I mean, I know I can get a lot of argument for or against this, but that's just my personal opinion, you know. And if I may just say this, because this is something that is a highlight for me from that same match. I can recall he had an English batsman. I can't remember the name, but Ronald Powell was the bowler. And Ronald Powell ran in 6 times and didn't deliver. And on the 7th time he ran in and he delivered, he got the batsman out for 99. I could always remember that. I could always remember that. And that happened back in 1988. You know, so yes, I would say Naya, when the two islands come together, it just brings the best. Because we are competitive people, we are competitive by nature. Kittitians don't want us to get the upper hand of them, sporting and talking. Nevisians do not want Kittitians to get the upper hand of us, sporting wise. You know, so you bring up that competitiveness.
One of my perhaps one of my most favorite cricketers out of St. Kitts was Luther Shotgun Kelly.
He jumped the wall one time, somebody said?
Well, I thought that if I thought that probably he was one of those persons who would have had that breakthrough. I have seen many fierce battles with him right there at the Grove Park, now the E.T. Park, between, for example, between him and Raphael Wallace.
In Griffin was major. Pace bowler Griffin, that tall guy?
Lipton.
Yeah, Lipton Griffin.
Kelly wasn't backing down and Rafi wasn't backing. And as a youngster looking at these two, that was when we used to have those
big matches,
cliffhangers in Grove Park. I have to be reminded that it's now the E.T. Willett Park. I say that because for me, he was one of those individuals who I always felt as a youngster looking at and looking at him that he was good enough. And in my mind, you know, I felt that his hand was there about. But St. Kitts have a greater attraction for the football, and it is something that they have invested a lot of time and resources and of course into. Nevis would have been more on the side of cricket, and the history would bear that out. I think that over the years we continue to see that in both cricket and football, the islands have made some advancement. We have advanced to the point as a nation we are hosting international ICC sanctioned cricket here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The point I'm trying to make, not because we are two small islands, and when it comes to population, we are probably a village in Australia. I want our young people to understand that not because they come from Hanley's Road or Old Road that they can't make it on the international stage.
True.
Not because they come from Brown Hill or Sandy Point that they can play cricket at Lord's or in Melbourne. You understand? And we have seen from right here in Nevis, the little boy from Jessop's and the little boy from Government Road have graced the stage.
Done it.
You understand? So the world really is our stage, right? The world is our stage. So I just want to say I know we've had 2 hours basically talking about cricket, but I just want to say to our young people that you apply yourself, develop that attitude for the love of what it is that you want to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be cricket. It could be football, golf, tennis, whatever it is. Apply yourself, develop that love for it, and you never know. You never know. You know. You never know.
Well, I suppose, and I've said this before, and some people will say I always talking about government, but these shining talents should be spoken to, and just to remind them of their importance to the island. To me, it's so important, you know. If you see a good talent, you know, people like you, Mr. Brand, as a politician and people representative, I'm sure speaking to these individuals and just reminding them of the importance and how much we look forward, you know, to be elated by their, you know, because they are the ones who make the islands known, man, you know. It's not the Prime Minister or the Premier, it's the talent, you know, the artists, you know, and Nevis, of course, we are so grateful for El Comido with it, because in a time when we were going through a lot of things in the 1970s, El Comido with it was a shining light. It lifts the spirit of Nevisians, you know. And it is so important to me that sometimes we and those who, you know, in certain positions, you got to meet these youngsters and talk to them one-on-one. You know, you see them with their cricket bag and their cricket tools every afternoon. Sometimes you got to pull them up, really, and let them know how important they are, you know, to the development of not just sport, but the pride of the island, you know. That is so important to me. But sometimes people think, you know, politics is such a weapon sometimes. It's such a dangerous thing sometimes that because people tend to put it between every little conversation you're having. It always play that role sometimes, and sometimes it's a destructive one, you know. But I believe that people should really reach out and encourage these youngsters, man, you know, on a one-to-one level. Let them know their importance even in the early stage of their career, and they would probably cling to it a lot more, because this is the problem we're having, you know. The West Indies, many flags, you know, and that has been our problem throughout the whole world, even in migration to places like England. You know, England look at us as West Indians. But we look at ourselves as
individuals,
Nevisians, Kitishans, Antiguans, Anguillians, and so forth, you know. And that is, of course, proven to be detrimental to West Indies cricket, because, I mean, it's that pride. Mr. Honorable was highlighting that, you know, that pride. It's not about how much you're getting paid. Stop watching the Australian man, them, you know, and other people. I understand everybody, but to me, when you're called to duty to represent the region, you know what I mean? You cannot be no sellout. I mean, long time ago, you remember Kerry Packer, right?
Yeah.
When the people went to South Africa, you know? And that was a big thing. But isn't it the same kind of thing happening right now?
But such was the talent back then, because then even those guys went to Kerry Packer, we still had a formidable team.
Yes, that is true. But we cannot forget that, though. And really trying to bring it, you know, in focus with what is happening now, you know, because it's almost the same trend, right?
Yes.
A few of our players went, and of course, they were ostracized, in a big way. You know?
Yep.
But not anymore. Not anymore. And to me, that is so important. It is so important. But how to fix that is another conversation, I suppose. And probably no one knows, because at the end of the day, it's about money, right?
Yes.
It's about money. The players want money. The organizers want money. So everything is on money. But I think there's multiple flags that we operate under sometimes, and sometimes trying to be as one. It is not that cemented.
I understand what you're saying, Naya, and I believe that the West Indies Cricket Board would have done something to adjust that in some way, in terms of the anthem. There's a song that is adapted, a song that by David Rudder, Rally Round the West Indies, and the lyrics were edited, to suit the purpose. And because then what came to the fore is that, let's say England, for instance, they would have the national anthem played before the particular match.
Okay. Yeah,
but then you can't play so many national anthems for the West Indies. So, because Rally Around the West Indies was so popular and so timely, and it just brings us as a people together as one. I want to believe that's the reason why they chose that particular song, and I believe that is probably the best song.
It's a good one.
To bind us together. When we are down, when we are losing, we beat our heads to the wall and we say all manner of things about West Indies cricket. But it is not because we want them to do bad, It's because we want them to do good, but it's a way of how we express ourselves. It's an expression. When West Indies, when we do good, everybody come together, everybody unite, everybody jump for joy. When we won that match in Australia, the second test match, I was there and I was saying, why, I believe West Indies is going to win, but Shaman got to come on the field somehow. I was saying it, not realizing that he would actually get to come and bowl, and to bowl 11 consecutive overs and an injured toe. Speak volumes. It bring back, the selflessness, the pride of representing. And I suppose too that he know where he comes from. And he knows that this could be his big breakthrough, and indeed it is, to reach from out of poverty, so to speak, to a level that he can take care of his family. All on Facebook I'm seeing, security guard making 21,000 a year, now making 21 lakhs, just for a tournament, So, it is that hunger for success. So we have to first have that burning desire inside of us as individuals. And then we have to harness it and bring it together so we come collectively as a team. We cannot and should not diminish the team effort for individualistic and individual goals. Yes, individual goals would come, and we want individual goals for ourselves, to achieve individual goals for ourselves, but at what cost? What happened to the team? Because they want to make a century and the team want to win the match, so the team want to make a quick declaration. What happens there? Should you put your maiden test century on the back burner for the benefit of the team? And these are things that happen in the past, And I often say that if it is one team man, so to speak, for the West Indies back then in the 90s was Keith Atherton. Keith Atherton. While there were others who were perceived not to be team players, Keith Atherton, in my opinion, was a team player. And the thing about Little Nevis too, Little Nevis in cricket, we have not just produced cricketers, we have produced captains, many captains for the Leeward Island team. Many. Elko, Stewart, Atherton, so many. For the West Indies team, we never actually had a captain for the West Indies team, senior team. But I know the West Indies board came out some time ago and they did say that they was looking at Kyron Powell as a future captain for West Indies senior team. Back in 1994, the England tour to the Caribbean, who was our captain? Richie Richardson, I think.
94, yeah.
I think Richie Richardson got injured, and Courtney Walsh took the reins of captaincy for the rest of the tour. But I guess because of where I was placed at the time, I know that the West Indies board first choice was Keith Atherton to be captain. Keith Atherton made 126 in Jamaica the first test, and then he fell off. He fell off in Guyana, he fell off in Barbados, I think it was. And they thought at the time, let us not pressure him with captaincy, but let us allow him to, to make runs freely, so to speak. Hence, he didn't get the captaincy of the West Indies team. So I'm saying that we just don't produce just cricketers. We produce leaders in cricket. And I believe the last match that I saw Leewards, they played against, who they played against last week? They won the match. Guyana. If I am not mistaken, to Colin Archibald, I believe I saw a C to his name, which means that he is the captain. He's the captain of the current, at least for that match. Because I know in the past it was Hamilton. In that same setup, it was Rakeem Cornwall at some point in time. So, if he's actually the captain, I don't know if it's just for that particular match or for the tournament, but we must say kudos to him. And we know that Nevis continued to produce leaders in cricket.
Well, I would like to congratulate Singers once again, high ratings and with the world travel ratings and tourism.
Yes, I think they won 4 awards.
Yeah, again. Well, they did that. I'm not sure last year. I think they had high ratings as well. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Sometimes I wish they can call Nevis' name though. Many times.
I think Nevis won an award. 4 Seasons won an award recently.
Yes, 4 Seasons won an award.
Yes.
Big time.
We do as well. We do win as well.
Yes.
So that's very good.
Yeah, I think it's good, and let's hope that it's a federation, one country, 2 islands, and let's hope in whatever positive way, what happens in St. Kitts could rub off on Nevis in terms of the tourism. I understand that there is 2 separate
ministry
tourism boards, 2 separate tourism authority, So I suspect maybe that's hence the reason why St. Kitts was separated.
Yes. Because this is not the first year that I realized that, and recognizing it's two different ministry, But we don't want him to rub off. We just want to be a part of, because it's one federation still. I mean, we get our share of tourists here, I think we want to see a lot more.
I think that both islands have their unique attraction. I think that St. Kitts is more on the mass tourism side. Nevis, on the other hand, have taken a slightly different approach to our tourism product and our tourism marketing. We basically normally seek the high-end market in terms of our tourism.
And that's still the policy?
Well, it is the policy in terms of, and it's a policy because we feel that at this stage the impact of the mass tourism may prove a challenge, right? Not that we would like to see more. Our whole ethos in the tourism market is we often say that we would like to see 100 tourists paying $1,000 rather than 1,000 tourists paying $100. And sometimes when we say it, people just wonder what are you talking about. I think that the idea is that St. Kitts offer a particular product and Nevis offer a particular product. I think that both islands often complement each other and complement each other in the sense that you would have, for example, tourists who are on St. Kitts and then enjoy some of what Nevis have to offer while they are visiting the island of St. Kitts, and vice versa. And both islands basically feed off of each other in their tourism setup and their tourism makeup.
But I must say that we over here want more feelings, though.
I hear you. I don't think that anyone would argue that they wouldn't want more. And I think that as an island, Naya, that is one of the thinking and one of the thrusts behind what it is that we want to do at the airport in terms of trying to get more airlift into the island and so on. All of that is a part of trying to attract not only more tourists but greater interregional travel and all of that. I know that it's also geared towards persons in the private jet market, where again we have quite a number of those persons who own properties here in Nevis and have to. So it's a holistic approach. For me, there are some other things that I would wish that we can, but I think that will take time in terms of our tourism development and so on. But like I said, I think that St. Kitts have their niche and Nevis carve out their niche, and we continue to move and and I agree with you. I will say to you that
my ears are close to the ground.
I know. I would say to you that the other day a cruise ship was on St. Kitts, and I happened to drove down Pinnis Beach to try and get a quick lunch takeaway. When I drove around, you see. But no cruise ship was out in Charleston Harbour.
Yeah, the beach is covered.
Precisely. So I think that both islands benefit from each other.
I went down there too. I took a walk down to Penny's, and I see something of interest. Maybe I might talk about it another time, because I see some gazebo-like things that go all the way down to Four Seasons, all the way. I keep driving, and they won't end, and I'm wondering, somebody have taken up the whole beach here. And I've mentioned it to an everyday person, and they felt the same. And I'm mentioning it to another, and they felt the same. So is there something going on, in a sense, that there's an underlying something there? Because it looks like one individual have taken all that space from up the beach all the way to Four Seasons. And some may argue that, why not somebody else? Or I don't know the arrangement, but it looks like something. And I've spoken to about 3 people that is a bit concerned about all the space that have been taken.
Well, I know that the individual would have started with a few, and you're correct that just keep expanding and expanding. I look at that in 2 ways. That yes, it perhaps may deprive other persons of an opportunity, but I think it also gives an indication that this individual, put the individual aside, take the individual out of the mix.
I'm thinking about a person.
That it shows that there is some growth and expansion and buoyancy in the tourism for that to have happened and keep expanding and expanding. So I think that there is some there is some value in, as you would have said, that persons may say, well, the entire beach is taken up, but I look at it as well that because of the growth and the development and the expansion in that particular sector,
But
that someone can be confident enough to keep expanding.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's preparation.
There is 2 sides to the coin. So
Preparation for such, for such. But it's good. All I want to see, man, is tourists in the place, and people, taxi drivers are smiling, not sitting too much down there too long on the bench there, so but smiling and so forth. Because my concern is the concern of the everyday people and so forth, so forth. But yes. I think Nevis has been getting a piece of the cake, and I'm sure most will agree with me that we would like more, and I hope that the airport project would not solve that problem, but would improve our product to that extent that we can have a much greater influx of tourists here. Not just coming through Thinkits, but coming through the new facility in whatever ways it's going to be used. It's high on the agenda. It's high on the people's mind, because people obviously would like to just see more, have more impact, to be impacted more by, when it's tourist season. I think we're highly dependent upon that, really.
Well, I think, Naya, as the Honorable would have said, well, certainly from what I have seen, we have tourists coming across from our sister isle, Thinkits, via the sea taxi each and every day. Yeah. As you would have said too, maybe we just need more, but every day I would have witnessed, tourists coming across, whether from cruise ships or from various hotels, maybe for a day, on the island, eating out, and stuff like that. So I think that, and tourists do go from Nevis down to Thinkits for a day and stuff like that. So
but they come back quick because they say they prefer Nevis.
Yes.
they always come back pretty quick.
So each island get a taste of what's on it.
But we see some other, I guess we are on about, improving what we have here. I see a lot of work going on at the Bad Stream there.
Yeah, they're doing some stuff down there. Yeah.
What is this stuff? Because I kept wondering what is it.
I know that the Ministry of Tourism started to put in some restroom, change rooms, and those kind of things there at the Bad Stream. Yeah. You wonder what they were?
Yeah, I saw them. Keep in mind, I'm kind of slow.
You are kind of slow.
Very slow.
I disagree.
You're free to disagree. If I feel you disagree.
Well, I guess that's his opinion. That's his opinion.
Is either you agree with Brian or you disagree?
That's not the question.
I would say that's his opinion.
His opinion is yours?
No.
But I'm asking you, what is your opinion? You're giving me his. What's your view?
You're not slow at all, Mr. Herbert. Far from being slow.
Naya,
I disagree.
you disagree. I don't know if you guys just bluffing, but every poll I take or vote I take, I win. That's the last word. This program repeats at 10 o'clock, following the 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark, and join Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock for Government at Work. It's a place to spend your evenings, every evening right here in the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse, where every single thing we do it for you, because only the best will do. You all have a good evening.